I've been seeing that the posts that I have from the past, that the descriptions are not showing up if you're on a telephone. On the computer or the laptops, you can easily find the descriptions, but for some reason it's not so easy on the phones, and it was in the beginning. The descriptions are important. And I would suggest that anybody who is getting off on these posts that I'm giving, the witness that I'm giving, that you check in on the earlier ones. A lot of them are really, I feel, I watch them, and I'm kind of blown away how clear a lot of them are in the witness of what Amen has given us. And that's the purpose for this. I don't expect, especially with the witness of Amen, to have huge audiences. And this is certainly, I'm not doing it with the intention of grabbing a lot of people. No, just giving the witness the best I can of Amen and what he gave us, and being a good representative for what he gave us, which is the word that he gave us and the spirit of that word. And so I'm going to try to label them like the last ones I've done with the title and see how that works. And then if that's working, I'm going to go back down the line. I mean, there's a lot of them now. And so, but I do believe if anybody's really being consciously fed by these, it may be worth your while. I know it would be, to go and check out the earlier ones, and especially the first ones, especially the very first, because that gives you the witness of Amen and where I got everything from, and also the description of going on the road in faith, which I'm hoping in some time that this will be used to inspire a whole new generation. And I'm believing in it. I'm absolutely believing in it, because everything else in the world is falling apart. That's pretty obvious. So I see, I got a whole list of stuff here that I could run off on. Here's one. I got one. Not hiding anything, not being dishonest, creates communication. When we first started in the early years, and brothers and sisters would come together, I mean, there's times we were sitting in a circle with a number of brothers and sisters, or you're just traveling with one other brother or sister, or a few of us. We'd be inside a lot. And of course, having dropped all of our stuff, or what we understood to be everything we were holding on to in the world, which was the foundation that Amen gave, that it cleared your mind of a whole lot of garbage. And so you're like newborn babies, and your innocence is accentuated through that. And in that innocence, there's more communication. And what you start finding is you're hearing each other inside. Now, real communication has to happen that way. I mean, words are slow vehicles, and that's a quote from Amen. I read a book one time. It was Mutant Message from Down Under. And a woman was being celebrated for her service to the Aborigines who, not that long ago, I think 1980, something like that, she was a doctor and she had been helping the Aborigines. And a lot of these Aborigines had gone back into their original traditions and were actually living in the wilderness and communing with one another in ways that were of ancient teachings, and living extremely simple. So in order to honor her, they took her on a walkabout. And what they shared with her, one of the key points that I got out of it, was that they were communing from within. They talked very little. They heard each other inside. They could hear each other from across the continent and come to join together in a place that was broadcasted. And their explanation for that ability was that they weren't hiding anything from each other. And in reality, they weren't hiding anything from God first. So in the innocence that we would travel in if we're really there, if we're really like wide open, not being defensive. See, defense is just another form of hiding yourself, insulating yourself, so that you don't have to face parts of yourself. And, through the journey with Amen, the early years were very special in that way. There were a lot of gifts given, and all the brothers and sisters can attest to that. And then as time has gone on and Amen kind of cut everybody loose to go in the world as you feel and just telling us to be good, well, a lot of the worldly things have invaded everybody. And, habits and self-serving, things that when people are doing it, they justify it, but in reality, they have defense mechanisms to protect them from looking at it for real. And all that breaks down communication. That's what it does. The Tower of Babel, that's really what it is. It's not just the Lord cursing the earth with the different languages. It is the conditions that people are in where they don't want to hear something that's abrasive to them, that's not what the way they're looking at things to justify themselves. And it's really a dishonesty before the Lord. It's not wide open. It's not wanting to and willing to seek the truth in all things. More to justify self, to get what I want. And the more that that's happening, see, that breaks down communication. Everybody's experienced it, of course. I've experienced it plenty. And I'm pretty hip to it. Somebody comes to me with something that I don't want to hear at that particular time. My first reaction is, I don't want to hear that. And it could be perfect and good, and even given in a good way. And I would still do that because I'm holding on to the other space. Now, being that I've been indoctrinated to the degree that I have in the fact that you don't want to do that, I re-examine myself. And I re-examine what happens, and I can see that part of myself because I'm pretty hip now to when I react in a defensive manner. Well, what was the reason for that? What was I defending? And, of course, a lot of times, it's a direct message from the Lord. It's amazing to watch that. His voice, his message is the thing people will defend themselves the most against. And we're talking about people who have relationship with him. That it's just built in. Amen would tell us, he says, expect the truth to be denied initially. Expect it. When people are really seeking the presence of the Lord in themselves, they learn to recognize that part of themselves. And so even though their first reaction may not be too cool, they run it through, just like I was saying. And then they get it. It's like when Amen was stopped drinking alcohol. And by that time, even though I never got into it as much as some, it became a tool for me. Like in the afternoon, I'd have a beer or two, and it would give me some energy. We were working. And so I kind of got attached to it. I got used to it. Whereas, for years, I didn't drink at all. And then the message came to me through one of the sisters that Amen said he didn't want one drop drank in his house. In other words, from us who believed in him. And my first thought was, just like what everybody does. Oh, that's not for me. I'm not like that. I don't have a problem. Which I really didn't have an alcohol problem. I didn't. I never liked it that much. But obedience. It wasn't being given by him anymore to me, and I wasn't recognizing that right off. And he even related. He says, oh yeah, everybody follows me when I go drinking, but when I stop, then let's see who follows me now. And so I did hear it in myself. I recognized his voice, and that's spirit, that's an ability. True communing with one another. There's so much miscommunication in this world. One of the things that Amen related was in a war. What's the first thing you want to take away from your opponent, your enemy? And the answer was communication. Now he was talking, using physical war as an analogy of a spiritual war. And of course, Lucifer, in his kingdom, in his world, is attempting to stop God's people from coming together with the Father and each other. And the each other part, it's really cool how the Father sets all this up through brotherhood, is we have to receive one another. He will use a lot of times the person you least want to hear it from to give you the message that you need to get yourself lined back up with the Father, or to receive the next page, the next increase. And, and in doing that, of course, that little ego, that part of us that defends, we all have that same reaction. But that's the way he set it up. And that was to join us together, not just with him, but with each other, because there's a union there. He set it up that way. We started with believe your brother. And of course, your brother is in the truth. It's not just believe a person because he calls himself your brother, or you look at him that way. But what you're doing is you're receiving him. You're opening your heart, and you're believing his intention and not defending yourself. And what that does, it creates communication. Now take it the other way, mistrust, breakdown. And that's what Lucifer wants to create between God's people, always, always. So even when I have a misunderstanding with someone, they will even hear exact opposite words from me that I speak, and sometimes it'll happen the other way around. Well, if you're in your heart and you're somewhat hip, you realize that occurs. So then you don't just go for it. You don't lock it down. You go, did I misunderstand you? Could you repeat that? Did I hear that right? This is what I heard. And it's no big deal. It's no big deal. But when someone wants to defend where they're at, they don't even want to hear it. Even if they misunderstood you and you go to them and say to them, you misunderstood me. This is what I really meant. They don't want to hear it. You can watch it. Because they don't want the deception that they're living in to be revealed. It's and I've related this throughout. It's what people call, it's Lucifer protecting himself and these demons from the light shining on them. That's what it is. And people identify themselves with it because they don't want to let it go. They don't want to let it go, whatever false way of thinking it is. So that breaks down communication. Well, now, if someone's not willing, there's nothing you can do. I mean, the miscommunications happen. And we project on one another, and all those things can occur. But if your heart's open, and you get two people together like that, well, communication becomes much easier. And of course, on common ground, it's much easier. But even on common ground, if you have a personal mistrust with someone, it's easy to misunderstand them, even if you would have agreed. And then there's, being out of balance and not always seeking balance. Receiving one another, being open, and being without defense. In other words, I want to know the truth. I want it more than anything. Because amen is the truth. And it's a constant increase, a deepening. It's not something you just get, and that's it. You have to be totally remade to the bone to be one with the truth. It's a dying and rebirth. And, everybody's calling out for feeling union with one another. Everybody is. Everybody who has love in their heart. There's that loneliness that's in this world. Everybody's calling out for that. And in order to start achieving it, it has to be first you and the Father, of course. That's where it's got to start, always. You and the Father. And then you can join together with people who are on page with you. You know, that's all you're going to be able to find in this world right now. But all those abilities are available. You know, true communication is available in the truth. Now, people communicate in all kinds of deceptions. Oh my goodness, the world is full of it. The truth is almighty.